It's August 5th, 2022, and a peaceful afternoon at Morriston Cemetery is about to erupt into chaos. A white van speeds through the graveyard, skidding around tombstones as it chases another vehicle amidst the graves. Members of two extended Irish traveller families, armed with weapons, leap from vehicles and sprint among the headstones. They collide in a vicious mass brawl, even using their vans as battering rams, smashing into parked cars and narrowly missing mourners in the process.
Right, hello, I live in Coffeys and there's a graveyard behind my back fence. There's multiple cars and vans and people with bats, knives. They've destroyed the whole graveyard. There's a load of people on the floor bleeding. There's graveyards smashed to pieces. There's loads. I've got a whole video. There's cars upon trucks. They're destroying the whole graveyard. People smashing things. They're tearing around. They've got bats. They've got axes. You just need to come quickly. The whole graveyard's been smashed to pieces.
Gravestones are toppled and broken, and by the time the fight is over, 2 people are seriously injured, including a teenager stabbed during the melee. What should have been a solemn memorial has turned into a battlefield, disrupted by warring traveller family factions locked in a long-running feud. To understand how a funeral turned into a war zone, we have to look at the bad blood simmering between these families. The brawl was not an isolated incident, but the latest outbreak of violence in an ongoing feud between 2 branches of an extended traveller family. On one side were members of the O'Brien and Coffey families, on the other, the Murphy and Thomas families, all related by blood and marriage, yet bitterly divided. In fact, this confrontation was just the latest in a series of clashes among these groups that had played out across South Wales in the months prior, including violent incidents in Newport, Cardiff, Bridgend and Swansea itself. Exactly what started the feud remains unclear to authorities and was not definitively stated in court. What is clear is that tensions had been escalating for some time. By the summer of 2022, relations were so strained that even a family funeral could not bring peace. Both factions attended a graveside blessing for a mutual relative at Morriston Cemetery that day, fully aware of the potential for trouble. Many attendees arrived dressed in typical black funeral attire for the solemn occasion, but others turned up in sleeveless vests, concealing weapons in their vehicles or on their persons. According to the judge who later reviewed the case, it was beyond the realms of coincidence that the rival groups each happened to have items like a machete immediately available for use. Both sides came prepared for a fight, and many family members were on high alert, knowing that trouble would erupt during the blessing ceremony. The turning point came amidst the graveside service, when a convoy of vehicles carrying members of one faction arrived to confront the other. Shouting soon escalated to violence as the armed men poured out of their vehicles. Vehicles themselves became weapons. Witnesses later described cars and vans being driven around the grounds as if it were a racetrack, deliberately ramming rival vehicles and tearing up the cemetery lawns in pursuit of each other. One dashcam clip, later released by police, shows James Coffey, 45, jumping into his van with a black club or bat in hand and speeding off after a fleeing white van weaving between gravestones. Coffey's van narrowly missed people walking among the graves. At one point, a mourner in a wheelchair and their carer had to dodge out of the way as the van raced past. In another clip, Coffey halts his vehicle and leaps out holding a wooden plank, while a passenger from his van, armed with a hammer, hurls a brick toward the opposing group. At least 7 men, some wielding machetes, others swinging tools like axes, hammers, or even a broom, are caught on video running through the rows of headstones, engaging in hand-to-hand combat. Amid the chaos, some of the violence spilled over into unrelated funerals taking place at the crematorium.
Now, the O'Brien Coffey families were at the cemetery for a family memorial, but that quickly descended, in the prosecution's words, into violent disorder, including shovels, hammers and, as you say, baseball bats. Now, 2 funerals were actually going on at the cemetery at the same time, including the funeral of one woman whose husband and 5 children, one of them heavily pregnant, were mourning her passing. The prosecution described how upset they were that such a difficult day had been made even harder. Now, the court was shown CCTV footage from inside the cemetery, and that showed one of the defendants, Patrick Joseph Murphy, hiding a baseball bat behind floral arrangements in the cemetery's remembrance room, damaging some of those flowers, according to the prosecution. The same footage showed 2 of his sons, John and Paddy Murphy, spitting on the floor of that remembrance room, which the judge described as an act of great disrespect, even desecration.
By the time the police arrived, the rival groups had largely scattered. South Wales Police dispatched armed response officers and even a helicopter to the scene when reports came in of men with machetes rampaging through the cemetery. Thankfully, no bystanders were killed or seriously hurt in the fray. However, one teenage boy had been stabbed and another man had wounds requiring hospital treatment. Both recovered. In the immediate aftermath, police faced a challenging investigation. Many suspects fled the scene, and those involved initially refused to cooperate. South Wales Police launched Operation Hitchin. The inquiry extended beyond local borders. Investigators coordinated with other police forces as far away as Berkshire to locate and arrest family members who had left the area after the fight. By late October 2022, the net had closed around the key participants. After nearly 3 months of work, 13 individuals were identified and charged in connection. They ranged in age from teenagers to men in their late 50s, and all were known to each other, belonging to the feuding family factions. Every suspect was charged with violent disorder, a serious public order offence, and 6 of them faced additional counts of possession of an offensive weapon. 2 men, James Coffey and Andrew Thomas, were also charged with dangerous driving for the reckless vehicle chases through the graveyard. One younger participant, John Coffey Jr., was charged with grievous bodily harm with intent, presumably related to the stabbing of the teenager during the fight. 4 of the most implicated men were denied bail and remanded in custody due to the severity of the incident, while the others were granted conditional bail as the legal process unfolded. As the case moved toward court, the defendants began to acknowledge their culpability. Ultimately, all 13 accused men pleaded guilty to the offences, avoiding the need for a lengthy trial. The overwhelming video evidence from multiple angles left little room to dispute the facts. In February 2023, the members of the feuding families faced justice at Swansea Crown Court. In total, 9 men were sentenced for violent disorder and related crimes. The remaining defendants were juveniles. 7 of them received immediate prison terms, while 2 younger men received suspended sentences. In total, the 7 men who went to prison received combined sentences of 13 years and 7 months behind bars. The longest sentence went to Andrew John Thomas, 40, of Llanelli, one of the instigators who also drove a vehicle in the chase, who was jailed for 3 years for violent disorder and dangerous driving. Patrick Joseph Murphy, 40, of Llanelli, the father whose relative's service had been the setting, received 2 years and 8 months in prison for violent disorder and possessing a weapon. James Coffey, 45, of Rumney in Cardiff, seen in the dashcam video, was sentenced to 2 years and 3 months for violent disorder, weapon possession, and his role in the dangerous driving. 2 older members of the O'Brien clan from Llanelli, Martin John O'Brien, 58, and John Joe O'Brien, 53, each received 16 months in prison for violent disorder and carrying weapons. Two younger men from the Cardiff side, John Coffey Jr., 24, and Geoffrey Tors, 23, were each jailed for 18 months on violent disorder and weapon charges. Finally, Patrick Murphy's two teenaged sons, Paddy, 19, and John Murphy Jr., 18, who had also been involved in the fighting, were spared immediate custody due to their age. The court gave both suspended prison sentences and ordered them to perform unpaid community work on the condition that they stay out of trouble. The Morriston crematorium brawl stands as a startling example of a family feud spiraling out of control in the worst possible place and time. A moment that should have been about paying respects to the dead instead became a scene of utter disrespect and lawlessness, watched in horror by innocent bystanders. It is remarkable that no one was killed during the fight, given the knives, axes and vehicles used as weapons. The feud that led to this carnage remains somewhat mysterious to outsiders, perhaps a long-standing grudge or series of retaliations that escalated over time. But what is clear is that such brutality at a cemetery crossed a line that most society finds unthinkable. Today, those who perpetrated the brawl are behind bars or otherwise punished, and the Traveller family's feud has been dragged into the public eye.